cold wind blew through the lower streets of Sector 9, a forgotten corner of the alien megacity. Neon signs flickered above broken stone, casting blue and red light over the wet pavement. Nobody noticed the woman sitting on the ground. Her name was Sierra. Her skin, pale with a faint glow, marked her as Valerie, a race once proud, now hunted. She sat with her back against the cold wall, holding a small bundle close to her chest. Inside the thin blanket was her daughter, Neva, barely breathing. Sierra's lips were cracked. Her voice was dry. Still, she whispered, "Please, someone, just help us." Aliens passed by. Some in rich silk robes, some in armored suits. None of them looked at her. One laughed. Another muttered, "Parasite," before disappearing. Into the crowd, Neva whimpered, a sound so soft it could break a heart. Sierra tightened her arms around the child, pressing her cheek to her daughter's forehead. It was cold. She stood slowly, shaky legs barely holding her weight. She walked a few steps toward the middle of the street, arms out, begging, "Please. Food, anything for my child." A tall alien with cybernetic eyes pushed her aside. She hit the ground hard. A few people stopped for a moment, but when they saw her alien features, they turned away. She dragged herself back to her corner. Her knees were bleeding. Her head spun. She looked down at Neva. "Just hold on," she whispered. "I'll find something, I promise." But she knew it was a lie. Sierra had come to the human sector because she had heard stories. Stories that humans were different, that they helped others, they had hearts. But so far, all she saw was silence. Suddenly, she felt eyes on her. She looked up slowly and saw a man standing still across the street. He was human, tall, rough jacket, short dark hair, a scar across his cheek. His eyes didn't look away when she saw him. He didn't pretend she wasn't there. He watched her. Sierra quickly turned away. Maybe he would walk on like the others. Maybe he was a soldier. Maybe he would arrest her for entering the sector without permission. But then she heard footsteps approaching. She held Neva tighter and curled around her child. "Please don't take her," Sierra begged. "I'll leave, just don't hurt her." But the man didn't speak right away. Instead, he knelt beside her. His voice was low, calm. "Is she still breathing?" Sierra looked at him, confused. "What?" He reached into his coat and pulled out a thick thermal jacket. Without asking, he wrapped it around Neva. The child stirred barely, but her eyes opened a little. Warmth. "It was working. You're going to freeze if you stay here," the man said. "Both of you." Sierra didn't know what to say. Her lips moved, but no sound came out. "Come with me," he said. "I've got food, heat, a bed, safe walls." Her heart raced. "Is this real? Was it a trick? Why?" she asked softly. The man stood up and looked around before answering. "Because someone should." He held out his hand. Sierra stared at it. For a long moment, she didn't move, but then Neva coughed. Her small hand clutched at the air. Sierra knew she had no choice. She took his hand. They walked through back alleys and under broken bridges. No one followed them. No one cared. The man led her to an old metal door hidden between piles of junk. He pressed a button. The door opened. With a hiss dot inside, there was an old spaceport maintenance room abandoned, but warm. A heater in the corner glowed orange. A few supplies were scattered around: blankets, food packs, even medical kits. Sierra stepped inside carefully. She didn't let go of Naiva. The man shut the door and pulled off his jacket. "My name's Reed," he said. "This place isn't much, but it's kept me alive." Sierra nodded slowly. "Sierra, and this is Neva." Reed nodded back. "Hey. Needs water and food?" "I've got both." He walked to a small storage crate and pulled out a food bar and a bottle of purified liquid. Sierra hesitated, but her daughter cried again. Carefully, she opened Neva's mouth and gave her tiny sips. Then, bite. The child swallowed. Sierra's eyes filled with tears. "I thought she wouldn't make it through the night." She whispered, read, sat down across from her. Now she might. Sierra finally looked at him closely. She noticed burned scars on his hands. A patch on his sleeve, torn, showed the Human Core Forces logo. And on his wrist, strange marks in another language. She didn't ask. Not yet, but something told her this man had been through pain too. As she fed her daughter, Sierra whispered, "Why would a human help me?" Reed looked into the flickering light and replied, "Because once someone didn't." Never forgotten. Sarah sat on a worn mattress laid out on the cold metal floor. The warmth of the heater filled the room slowly, but her hands still trembled as she cradled Neva close.
Ow.
Her daughter's small breaths had grown stronger since the first bite of food and the few drops of clean water, but she was still weak, far too weak. The human Reed moved around the room, pulling supplies from hidden crates. Every step he took echoed with quiet purpose. He didn't ask questions. He didn't press her. He just worked, calm and silent. Sierra's mind raced. Why did he help her? What did he want? She'd seen humans before, harsh, quick to judge, cold like the world outside. But this one had given her his jacket before even asking her name. She touched the heavy coat wrapped around her child. It was too big, too warm, too human. And yet it felt like the safest thing she'd touched in years. "You should rest," Reed said without looking at her. "She'll need more food later. I'll prepare something better than rations." Sarah didn't reply. She still didn't. Trust him, not fully. "You live here?" she finally asked, voice hoarse. Reed gave a small nod. "Used to be a refueling bay. I took it over after they decommissioned the outer sectors. No one comes here now." She looked around. Space was hidden, shielded by wreckage outside. Power came from a broken-down solar generator. He must have repaired himself. "Are you military?" she asked carefully. Reed's hands paused for a moment. Then he continued stacking blankets. "Was he said shortly?" "A long time ago." Sierra pressed further. "He said you were punished for helping aliens." Reed turned and leaned against the wall. Arms crossed. "I was stationed near Villar Space during the cleansing raids," he said, voice low. "My orders were to report any alien survivors, but I didn't." Sierra's heart sank. She knew what he meant. "I found a group of children, Velar, like your daughter, barely alive. I refused to give them up. My command called it treason." Sierra stared at him, speechless. "They exiled me. No court, no trial, just a black mark and a warning to the rest." He looked away, but I'd do it again. For the first time, Sierra believed him. "You risked everything," she said. He shrugged. "I wasn't the one starving on a sidewalk." There was silence between them for a while. The heater hummed softly. Neva stirred and let out a small cough. Sierra stroked her head gently. "I thought humans only cared about their own," Sierra whispered. "Most do," Reed said, sitting across from her, "but I stopped listening to most a long time ago." He reached beside him and pulled out a small silver box. He placed it on the ground and slid it toward her. "What's this?" she asked. He opened the lid, revealing a folded photo creases deep from age and handling. It showed a younger Reed, standing beside a tall alien woman, and 3 children. 2 were clearly not human. "She saved my life once," he said. "During a battle, I never got to return the favor." Sierra saw the pain in his eyes. "What happened to them?" she asked gently. His jaw tightened. "They were captured. The children sold." She fought back, and they shot her. Said she attacked first. Sierra clenched her fists. "That's what they always say," he nodded. "I couldn't find the kids. I searched for years. All I have left is this place, and a promise I made to her." Sierra looked at him carefully. "What promise?" Reed's voice was firm. "That if I ever saw someone like her again, I wouldn't walk away." She felt her throat tighten. She hugged Neva tighter, blinking away tears. This wasn't just kindness, it was personal. Suddenly, a loud beep echoed. From the door panel, Reed moved fast, grabbed a small scanner, and peered at the screen. A low red light flashed. Someone just passed the outer sensor. Sierra froze. "Is it police?" she asked. Reed shook his head. "Too slow for patrol. Might be a scavenger or worse, a bounty tracker." Her heart sank. They were hunting me earlier. They scanned our chips. Reed stood and walked to a hidden compartment. From it, he pulled out a pulse rifle, old but deadly. "I'll handle it," he said, voice steady. "No," Sierra cried. "If they find you helping me, they'll mark you too." Reed glanced back at her. "They already did," he said. "They think exiling me was enough, but they forgot what I learned in the field." He placed a hand on the wall, and another small compartment opened inside. Were two more children, alien, sleeping under warm blankets. One of them had cybernetic implants. Sierra gasped. "You've been helping more?" Reed nodded. "She's not the first. You're not the first. But if we're careful, she won't be the last." As footsteps echoed near the outer wall, Reed whispered, "Stay inside. Lock the door behind me. If I don't return in 10 minutes, run." And then he was gone. The minutes stretched like hours. Sierra sat frozen beside the metal door, holding Neva close. The heater's gentle hum was the only sound in the shelter now. The warmth around her felt false, like it could be ripped away any second. Reed had vanished into the shadows. Beyond that door 5 minutes ago, 7 now, maybe 8. She'd stopped counting. Her heart pounded harder with every passing second. She whispered to her child, "Don't be afraid, just a little longer." But it was herself she was trying to comfort. Suddenly dash tap, tap. 3 light knocks dot the code. She jumped to her feet and opened the door quickly, locking it again as soon as Reed stepped inside. He was panting, his jacket singed dirt across his face. But he was alive. In his hands he carried a small crate. "False alert," he said, dropping the box to the ground. "Just a junk collector," but he was sniffing close. Sierra looked at the crate.
"Hey, what's that?"
Reed cracked it open.
"What do you get inside?"
Were vacuum-sealed food packs, water pouches, and something strange, a doll. Old but clean, human-made. Got it from an old black market stash. We'll be needing it. Sierra's eyes narrowed. Reed met her gaze. "There's something I didn't tell you earlier." He walked toward the back wall and gently knocked twice, then pushed aside a rusted metal panel.
"Oh."
Behind it was a narrow tunnel, dimly lit by blue lights. Sierra blinked in surprise. "You said you live here alone," she said slowly. "I lied," Reed replied. "Come see why." Sierra followed him through the narrow passage, carrying Neva in her arms. The tunnel felt endless, silent except for the hum of hidden wires. After several meters, they reached a round chamber, once part of a collapsed docking bay. Now, it was something else entirely. There were mats on the floor, crates of food and children. 3 of them, different species, thin, small, scared. One was Tellery, with silver skin and wide black eyes. Another looked half machine metal lines, ran across her arms. The youngest was green-skinned, sleeping with his thumb in his mouth. They all looked up when Reed entered. The Tellery girl stood and walked to him. "Did you find her?" she asked softly. Reed nodded. "Yes, and she has a baby too." The girl peeked around Reed and saw Sierra and Neva. Sierra stepped back. "We wasn't ready for this. They've been here for weeks," Reed said. "I rescued them one by one. Couldn't find their families," Sierra whispered. "Why didn't you tell me?" Reed crouched beside the sleeping boy and gently pulled the blanket up. "Because I didn't know if I could trust you yet. I couldn't risk their lives." Sierra's chest tightened. She understood. "They trust you," she said. Reed looked up at her. "Do you?" Sierra nodded. "I do now." She looked around the chamber. Each child had signs of pain scars, missing parts, hollow eyes. But here, they were safe. "This is why you stole food," she said. Reed smiled weakly. "Food isn't. For me, I can survive on scraps, but they can't." Sierra sat down, laying Neva beside the other children. The Tellery girl offered her a blanket without a word. For the first time in days, Sierra exhaled. Later that night, after the children had eaten and fallen asleep, Sierra sat beside Reed in the upper shelter. The heater glowed gently, casting shadows. On the walls, "I used to think humans were monsters," she admitted. I watched your ships burn cities. I saw what your leaders did to mine. Reed stared at the flame. They were monsters. Not all of us. Syrah looked at him carefully. So what are you? He replied after a long pause. What they fear. A human with a conscience. Syrah nodded slowly. Then she asked, what do we do now? The food will run out. Patrols will come again. Can't hide forever. Reed pulled out a small data disk and handed it to her. I stole this from the last auction house before I was exiled, he said. It holds records names of alien children, taken and sold, including locations. Syrah stared at the disk. You plan to? Rescue them all? Reed's jaw clenched. One at a time, as many as I can. You'll be killed. Maybe, he said, but if I stop, they win. Syrah looked down at her sleeping daughter, then to the other children. She thought of the cold street, the silence, the eyes that turned away. And then she looked at Reed, a broken man, a hunted man, but maybe it's the only real hope left in this dying sector. Reed stood and walked toward the tunnel again. Rest while you can, he said. Tomorrow night, we're going back out. And this time we're not. Just bringing food? Asterisk. The next evening came too fast. Reed stood by the wall panel, tightening the straps of his worn-out boots. The others were still asleep, except Syrah, who sat quietly feeding Neva with drops of nutrient milk. Red had warmed up over a small fire plate. The tunnels were quiet, but above them the city was not. Loudspeakers echoed through the smog-heavy skies. All citizens must report. Unregistered non-natives. Harboring is punishable by orbital strike. Syrah flinched at the word strike. I've heard those announcements before, she said, her voice barely above a whisper. But they weren't so loud last week. Reed looked up, eyes focused. Because someone's talking? Or someone's missing what they expected? You think it's about us? Reed nodded once. Retook food. Broke into a black market vault. They noticed. He opened a worn locker and pulled out a satchel with an old rifle and a glowing blue cube. Syrah stared at the cube. What's that? Beacon jammer, he said. Homemade. Long as it's on, sensors can't track signals within 40 meters. It bought me 5 extra minutes once. It saved 2 lives. He tucked it in his coat. I'm going to scout. You stay here. Lock the hatch behind me. But Syrah stepped forward. No, not this time. He frowned. You've got Neva to protect. She straightened her back. She's safe with the others. You need eyes, not just weapons. Let me come. There was silence. Reed gave a long look, then nodded. Stay close. They exited through a tunnel that led to a ladder hidden behind an old rusted panel. As they climbed, the sounds of the city grew louder. Sirens, voices, engines. The hatch opened into an alley between 2 ruined buildings. Trash blew like tumbleweeds. Scavenger drones floated overhead, scanning the area. Reed tapped the jammer. Cube in the air shimmered faintly. They moved fast, ducking into shadows, avoiding patrols. But something wasn't right. Syrah stopped suddenly. Did you see that? She whispered. Reed turned. She pointed to a building across the street where an alien patrol ship sat on silent thrusters, its black hull glowing with warning lights. It wasn't moving. It was. Waiting, Reed pulled out small binoculars and scanned the area. There, he whispered. 2 soldiers, hidden on the balcony, watching. He scanned further and then cursed under his breath. What is it? She asked. He handed her the binoculars. Her heart dropped near the edge of the street. It was a hologram screen with Reed's face on it, and below it, hers. Wanted, human deserter, and Valari fugitive, armed, dangerous. Last seen with stolen supply crate. Bounty, 30,000 units. Syrah stepped back. They lied. Reed's jaw tightened. They always lie. But there. Saying we stole hurt people, abandoned children, ... They flipped the truth. She shook her head. How many people will believe it? Enough to make sure no one helps us. He took a breath. This means one thing: they're scared. They know we're freeing others. They know we're not done. Suddenly, a high-pitched ping rang in the air. A red dot blinked onto the far wall. Sniper sensor, Reed said, grabbing Syrah's hand. They dashed through tight alleys, blaster fire slicing through crates around them. It jumped over piles of scrap, turned sharp corners, ran. Down a broken stairwell. The noise behind them didn't stop. Then, ahead another patrol. 2 guards, armed and armored. Red skidded to a stop and ducked behind a generator. "Too many," he muttered. Sierra looked up, panned, spotted an old market door beside them. She didn't wait. She pulled Reed and slammed into the door. It gave way dust. Flying everywhere, inside was a dark room lined with crates and shelves, ancient tech, and one glowing screen still active. "What is this place?" Sarah asked. Reed coughed. "Old security hub? Might be dead weight." He ran to the screen and tapped commands. The screen flickered and then showed maps, access tunnels, patrol movements, abandoned checkpoints, and highlighted in green locations marked holding unit juvenile. Sierra leaned in. "These are the places from the data disk?" Reed nodded. "They're still active, still storing alien children," she whispered. "So many." Reed backed away. "We need to get this info back. We can plan rescue runs, pick targets, move quiet." But just then, the floor above them groaned. "Reed," Sierra said, grabbing his arm, "they found us." "Back way," he said, pulling a metal hatch open under the desk. They dropped down into a sewage-lined ark. Cold, but safe. Hours later, back at the shelter, Sierra sat shaking. "They showed our faces." "Lead to the entire city." Reed didn't answer. He stared at the maps, lips tight. His eyes weren't angry, they were focused. He said, "We don't hide anymore. Not completely. Not after this." She looked up. "What do you mean?" "Tapped a spot on the map. I mean, we hit them back." He turned to Sierra and said, "There's a transport tomorrow heading to one of the holding units. We get on it. We bring them out." The underground was louder than it should have been. Not with noise, but with heat. With breath, with tension. Sierra wore a torn veil over her face, dressed in dark trade rags. Her hands trembled inside old gloves. Beside her, Reed looked like a true outlaw, scruffy coat, tech visor, and a plasma pistol clipped to his belt. No one would suspect he was once a military hero. He was just another face in the black market crowd. They had made it into the auction compound a secret. Pit buried under Dock 72, far below the surface of the city. Above them, the neon lights faded. Down here it was damp, filthy, and full of danger. "Keep your head down," Reed whispered. "No eye contact. No talking. You're a servant." Sierra nodded. She cradled a small box in her arms empty, but it made her look like she belonged. Like a slave trader's assistant, they moved past guards with cybernetic dogs and scanners, past glowing walls that pulsed with codes. Reed handed a forged ID chip to the scanner bot. The bot blinked, then let them through. Inside was a circular chamber, like an ancient theater. But instead of actors, children stood on raised platforms, thin, pale, scared. Some were chained. Others had tracking collars. Alien buyers sat in dark rows below, raising digital paddles to bid. A loud voice echoed. "This young one's Intari blood, minimal damage, high obedience rating starting at 10,000. Sarah gripped the box tighter, feared. Her stomach turned. "This was worse than she imagined," Reed whispered. "Don't look away. Watch closely." He nodded toward the back wall and iron door, guarded by 2 drones. That's where they keep the ones not ready for sale yet. Sick, stubborn, or too young. Sierra's heart ached. Neva had once been just like them. "We wait for the shift change," Reed whispered. 15 minutes. Slip past, disable the lock, and get inside. "How many are in there?" she asked. Reed's voice dropped lower. "At least 10, maybe more." Sierra glanced toward the platform. A young alien boy stood frozen under the spotlight, silver skin, blue eyes. His arms were too thin, bones showing. Sierra's breath caught. She recognized him. "Kalen," she whispered. Her knees buckled. Reed grabbed her arm. "What?" That's Neva's brother, my son. I thought he was dead." Reed's expression changed. "Then we're not waiting 15 minutes. The crowd was distracted by a bidding war. When Reed moved, He passed behind the platform, heading toward the iron door. Sierra followed, still gripping the box, her heart racing with every step. Reed reached the control panel beside the door, tapped his sleeve, which projected a hacking tool. Lights blinked, codes shifted, metal creaked. The drones didn't move. Their scans were focused on the crowd. The door slid open. Inside were metal cages, no light. Just quiet sobs and breathing. Sierra rushed in first, whispering, "It's okay, we're here to help." Children backed away at first, but she held up her hands, her voice soft. "We're not here to hurt you, we're here to get you out." Reed opened each cage one by one. He moved fast, guiding them toward the back hatch that led to the sewage tunnels. Then Sierra heard the auctioneer's voice shift. "We seem to be having a system error one moment." "They knew, Reed," she called. "They noticed." Reed shoved open the hatch. "Go, I'll get Callan." "No," she cried. "I'll catch up, go." She hesitated, then grabbed the children's hands and led them into the tunnel. Reed moved like a ghost. Slipping past guards, he circled to the platform. Callan was still up there bidding, had paused. The boy swayed, dizzy. Reed took a deep breath, and then fired. One shot tinned to the lights above. Sparks rained down. Screams followed. He ran toward the platform, dodging a stun rod, pulling Callan off the stage and throwing him over his shoulder. Blasters fired behind him, kicked over a burning crate of auction papers. Setting off small explosions, the room went dark, and Reed vanished into the smoke. Sierra waited near the tunnel exit, counting every breath, then dashed footsteps. Reed stumbled out of the dark, coughing Callan in his arms. Sierra ran to them, tears falling. "Callan," she whispered, holding her son. "You're alive. You're really alive." The boy's voice was weak but real. "Mama." Reed fell to one knee, gasping. "They'll come after us now. We hit them hard." Sierra looked at him, then we hit them again. Reed stood. Slowly, blood on his coat, fire in his eyes. "We just became their biggest problem." Asterisk red lights flashed through the tunnels. Sirens screamed above them. The ground shook. The auction house was burning, and the flames weren't just from fire, they were from anger. Reed had done what few dared. He didn't just rescue, he humiliated them. Sierra led the group of rescued children through the tunnel's 10 small souls. With wide, terrified eyes, some limped, some cried. Some were too quiet, like they'd forgotten how to feel. Reed followed at the back. One hand on Callan's shoulder, the other gripping his blaster. "They'll be searching every exit," he said. "Airborne drones? Scanners? We won't make it on foot." Sierra turned to him. "Then what do we do?" Reed glanced at her, then said something she hadn't heard before. "We wake the ghost." Back in the shelter, Sierra carried Neva. In one arm, Callan in the other. Both were alive. Both fed. Both wrapped in the warmth of a world they thought had forgotten them. But Sierra noticed something strange. Reed was quiet to quiet. He moved to the far wall and opened a sealed crate. Inside wasn't food or supplies. It was a command terminal, dusty and dark. She watched him run his fingers across it slowly. "I didn't want to do this," he muttered. "But they've left no choice. What is it?" she asked. He didn't answer. Instead, he pressed a button. A low hum shook the room. A hidden wall panel slid open, and behind it, a steel door, covered in dust and burn marks. He walked through. Sierra followed him down a spiral staircase. Deeper than she knew, the shelter went. The air grew colder. The lights flickered. Old tech. Slowly waking up, at the bottom, there it was. A ship. Small, black, sleek. Covered in armor plates that shimmered with strange reflections, Sierra stepped back. "What is that?" Reed smiled for the first time in days. "My old warbird," he said. "They called it Ashwing. It was scrapped. I hid it here, rebuilt it in secret. You fixed this alone, piece by piece, in case the war came to me again." Sierra looked around the hangar, silent and buried for years, and the ships. Lights were turning on. Within minutes, Reed loaded the children into the warbird. There were compartments with sleeping pods, supply drawers, and med beds. It was old, yes, but it was a human ship. Built for speed, stealth, and fight. Kalen sat near the front, staring at the glowing dashboard. It looks alive, Reed chuckled. She is. Watch this. He touched the main control panel. Mechanical voice spoke. Ashwing Online. Welcome. Back, Commander Trask. Weapons. Cold. Shields. Recharging. Fuel, 43%. Emergency flight mode. Available. Sierra stared at the controls, stunned. You flew this in war? Reed nodded. She got me out of things I should have died in. He turned serious. She can get us out now, but only once. Outside, the sirens grew louder. Sierra's heart raced. They found the tunnels. Reed didn't wait. He pulled a lever. The floor beneath the hangar shook. A launch platform began to rise. Hold on, he said. We're going through the scrapyard roof. Above the surface, patrol ships hovered over the city. Searchlights pierced the sky. Scanners swept the ground. Then dash, boom. A section of rusted junk exploded upward. From the ashes, Ashwing roared out, fire trailing behind it. The scanners tried to lock on, but the stealth coating threw them off. Inside the ship, Sierra held Neva and Kalen close as the walls hummed with power. The children stayed silent, watching in awe. This ship isn't just fast, Reed muttered. She bites. He pressed a button. The rear display lit up to patrol ships giving chase. Reed flipped a switch. A turret slid out from the side of Ashwing? Don't worry, he said. I think we're just running. He let them get close. Then the warbird spat fire. Twin plasma bolts hit the first patrol's engine. It spiraled down in a scream of smoke. The second ship fired, but Ashwing barrel rolled, dodged, and fired back. One shot. Direct hit, silence returned. In the quiet, Sierra looked out the window as the city shrank behind them. You saved them, she whispered. Red didn't answer. He just stared ahead, focused. But then he spoke. We'll find a place to land. There's an old colony moon, dead to the world. No scanners, no law. We'll hide there. Sierra asked, and then what? Reed didn't turn. We build again. We grow. And when we're strong. He looked back at her. We go back for the rest. The stars stretched a headbutt behind them. Alarms still rang across the city, and new bounties were being posted. The humans were no longer hiding. They were fighting back. They landed on Moon 17, long forgotten by the galactic maps. The skies were always dim. The air, barely breathable. But it was safe, and that was enough. The warbird Ashwang rested in a crater of rock and dust. Its engines hissed with heat as the ramp lowered. Reed stepped out first, scanning the rocky horizon. Weapon at his side, then came the children, one by one. They stepped onto the barren moon, some blinking, some smiling, some afraid to believe they were free. Sierra came last, holding Neva in, one arm and Callan by the hand. The moment her boots touched the ground, she whispered, "We made it." Reed looked around the shallow caves nearby and nodded. It's not much, but we can build here. Quietly, carefully. Sierra smiled faintly. Quiet doesn't suit you. He raised an eyebrow. It kept us alive. But you didn't just survive, she said. You changed something. He didn't respond. But the look in his eyes said he felt it too. In the days that followed, the children healed. Wounds were cleaned. Bodies fed. Scars tended. Reed fixed old tech to power lights and heat. Sierra cleaned the caves, turned cold stone into warm shelter. Kalen found an old comms device buried in the ship. It was broken, but Reed showed him how to fix it. Why repair it? Sierra asked. To send messages, Kalen said. To others, like us. Reed smiled. The idea was no longer to hide. It was to signal. One morning, while setting up solar panels on the ridge, Reed picked up an unfamiliar sound from the scanner. A short message, broadcast in a cracked alien language, he amplified. It, rumors say. A human vessel pulled children from the auction pits. Rumors say they ride in fire and vanish like shadows. If you hear this, you're trapped in the mining colony near Delta C. They are taking our young. Please, if the ghost is real, help us. Reed stared at the blinking message for a long moment. Sierra appeared behind him. Another one, he nodded slowly. They're waiting, she said. They'll be killed, he replied. Just like the others, if no one comes, then we go. That night, the cave was quiet. The stars blinked gently through the open sky. The children slept in clusters, wrapped in blankets. Reed stood outside, staring at the sky, deep in thought. Sierra walked up beside him. You didn't have to save me, she said, or Neva, or any of them. I didn't do it because I had to, Reed replied. I did it because someone once told me, heroes don't always wear armor.
Sometimes.
They just stop when no one else will. Sierra smiled. Who told you that? Reed's voice dropped. My sister. Before she was taken, Sierra placed a hand on his arm. We can't change the past, no, he said, but maybe we can rewrite the future. 2 days later, the warbird Ashwing launched Gigant's wings slicing through stardust, moving silent and unseen through dark space, but it didn't travel alone. The message had traveled. Farther than they imagined, from old hideouts to refugee moons, from forgotten camps to broken worlds others had heard. Small ships joined one by one. Oh, Valari freighter limped in from the eastern belt. A stolen Talari scout craft docked quietly behind them, even a group of exiled humans. Long gone from the core systems responded. Within hours, 5 ships flew behind Ashwing. Not warships, not fleets, just broken vessels with burning hearts. They reached Delta C's orbit at midnight. The mining colony below was massive, full of lights, guards, fences. Children were locked behind metal gates. Sierra stared through the scope. 2. Many guards. We can't do this alone. Reed leaned forward. We're not alone anymore. He touched the communicator. All ships. Target the towers. Knock out the sensors. Don't aim to kill. We're not here to start a war. We're here to end a crime. He looked at Sierra. Ready? She nodded. Let's make them believe the ghost is real. What happened next would become legend. The towers went dark first. Sparks flew across the sky. Then came the landing ships crashing through fences, people pouring out. Not soldiers, not warriors, but survivors, rebels, former slaves. They knew the pain. They knew the mission. Reed moved like lightning covering doors. Opening cages, shouting for others to move fast. Sierra freed children from chains while guiding them to the ship. Kalenina, Talari girl, broadcast the footage live through old feeds. The entire system watched it happen and couldn't believe it. A human, not conquering, but liberating. They left before sunrise. 50 children saved. No. 1 left behind. The colony's leaders were captured and exposed. The footage went viral across fringe systems, and the whispers grew. There's a human ghost ship that hunts the Daub. Darkness. It's a woman who walks beside him with a child once frozen, now strong. It's a flame rising, not of war, but of hope. Back on Moon 17, Sierra stood beside a new Comes tower. More messages were arriving daily. Requests for help. Cries for mercy. Calls for freedom. Reed walked past her, cloak flapping in the wind, tools in one hand. A new mission in the other. She called. After him. Where are you going now? He paused, then smiled. Anywhere the light's gone out. And as the stars watched, the human who once walked alone led an army of the forgotten, proving to the galaxy what no one wanted to believe. Humanity still had its heart, and it burned brighter than ever.